Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's about that time again. Welcome to the Off the Dome Show, hosted by yours truly, Thomas Brown Jr. So many things to talk about. Very excited about it all. But first, I want to share with you our sponsor for today, NFLshop.com. Okay? The NFL season is right around the corner. Literally right around the corner. And what better way to start off the year than to rep your team? So please visit NFLshop.com today to find all the latest apparel to rep your team this season. And tell them that we decided to send you. Okay? All right. So, we got a lot of things on tap for today. All right. And it ain't the same without my lovely co-host, Brock. How are you feeling, brother? How are you?
I'm good. I'm very tired. Eyes are bloodshot. I just got done working a 12-hour shift, but happy to be here. Happy to be back. Looking forward to talking whatever we got to talk about.
All right. So, I feel like we should switch gears today. I didn't have this in my plans at all, but something happened between the timing of us putting this show together and today, which was a signing. So I figured we would just cover both of them, because why not? So CeeDee Lamb, earlier in the week, signed a 4-year, $136 million deal, $100 million guaranteed, $38 million signing bonus. Fantastic. Then yesterday, we have Brandon Ayuk finally get his deal done. 4 years, $120 million, $76 million guaranteed. And look, I know you have your thoughts about both wide receivers, so I'll start off with you. What are your thoughts on both receivers and their deals?
I think CeeDee's was necessary to be done without a doubt. I mean, he was the Cowboys' main point of offense last year. I think over 1,700 yards receiving. You know, he was Dak's clear number one target. I think he led the league in biggest amount of yards separate between wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2. So I'm not surprised about that at all. I'm a bit surprised in the Ayuk one. I thought that the 49ers were ready to get rid of him. You know, I thought Ayuk was ready to leave. I understand why he get this deal done, but the lack of a deal for Trent Williams is a bit concerning. I think he can win without Brandon Ayuk. I don't think he can win without Trent Williams. Trent Williams is the only really good offensive lineman on that line, and there's a reason why he is the highest paid left tackle in the league twice. With his past 2 contracts, he reset the market both times. I mean, that he's the main point of the attack. I said this a while ago, and I say it again. Everybody in the Shanahan offense is replaceable except Trent Williams. Trent Williams is the only guy that's not replaceable, and now he's the only guy that's not in camp, that's not with the team, that hasn't participated in preseason, that's not held in, he's held out. I think that's a massive point of concern for me, especially now that Ayuk takes up a significant portion of your cap.
Right. And my thing was that I felt like CeeDee Lamb's deal was kind of something that should have happened a while ago, to be honest with you. I feel like when you're talking about the Cowboys, you have to talk about CeeDee Lamb, especially after the year that he's had last year, the production that he put out, like you mentioned, having 1,700 yards. I don't think that's something that you could just wake up one morning and be able to do. And that's something that he was able to do on a consistent basis, week in and week out. That had to be done. I didn't understand why it took so long for that deal to get done. I don't know what the issue was. Obviously, you know, Jerry likes to be in the headlines. That's my conspiracy. You like to be in the headlines as long as you possibly can until the season starts, so that way you can have all the eyes on you. That's my thoughts on that. But I think CeeDee Lamb's contract definitely well deserved. And it just leaves some more questions on what they're going to do with Micah and with Dak and how they're going to sort that out. I guess they'll cross that bridge when they decide to do so. But Brandon Ayuk, I think I think there's a lot of 49ers fans that don't like the stance I've taken with Brandon Ayuk because it's been the same thing ever since this whole deal started back in April, which was before the draft, which was, look, you want to get your money, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But it's the type of money that you're asking for that is like, really? You think you're in that class? You think you're worth that kind of money? And it's like, I always had to raise an eyebrow because it's like, I'm thinking about the guys on your own team that you're not more valuable than. But yet you want to get paid more than them. And I didn't even consider Brock Purdy or, you know what I'm saying, guys like that haven't been paid yet. Trent Williams that you brought up. The guy is the best tackle in the game. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. If anybody should be taken care of before him, it's Trent Williams. And that hasn't been taken care of yet. And so it bothers me when we have these crossroads where certain guys feel like it's justified to hold in. This was a case where Brandon Ayuk held in, where he was causing a distraction while being weird around the team. And it's like, how do you expect for the players in the locker room to look at you when you have all this going on and you're handling it the way that you are? It's ridiculous to me. And again, like I said, you want your money, that's fine. $120 million for 4 years. Okay, cool, great. I don't know what else you were asking for. And the fact that what the reports were saying is that this deal was on the table from the very beginning, it's kind of annoying. I will say that. But again, this was long overdue. I feel like the fact that he was asking for anything more than what he got was quite abysmal. And again, I'm glad they got it out the way, but they need to get Trent Williams taken care of. Because I promise you, as an organization, I'm paying him whatever he's asking for, if not more. Now, granted, if you want to get on Trent Williams because of his age, sure, whatever. But he's still giving you the best production of any tackle in the game. And I think that within itself warrants top money. Okay? So I think that's just the way that the cookie should crumble in San Fran. Correct me if I'm wrong, I think as far as good teams are concerned, this has to be the most busiest, noisiest offseason for a team that was just in the Super Bowl this past year. So, it'll be interesting to see how that season goes for San Fran. But again, congrats to both wide receivers for getting the job done and being able to secure the bag. Like I said, CeeDee Lamb was a surprise for me. Brandon Ayuk, this was going on for way too long. I thought that they were going to trade him, and it was going to be totally fine with me. But hey, it is what it is. I'm glad we got it out the fucking way because I'm about tired of hearing about, trade me, pay me. I'm tired of it. I am. We're this close to the year. Let it go. Let's get the football, okay? So that's really where we're at. At the end of the day, Brandon Ayuk is having the same deal. Yeah, pretty much. Like it's one of those things where it's just like it's annoying because you're trying to tell me that this deal has been put on the table, and you literally ended up getting this same exact deal. Like there was no change or no nothing. It's mind-boggling. So just wanted to get that piece out the way. So now that, because there's not a lot of expectations for CeeDee Lamb. Because we all know what CeeDee Lamb brings. My expectation is now on IU. Because now that you had created all this noise, now you better produce. Every time you catch the ball, there better be like big time games now. Anything less than that is going to be a disappointment, and we're going to look at you differently because of the noise that you brought throughout this entire offseason. It's just the way it is, unfortunately, but fortunately in this case. So, like I said, shout out to both receivers for getting the job done. Brandon Ayuk, we're looking at you, brother. We're looking at you. So glad I got that out the way. Now, I want I want to shift gears to this topic. It was crossing my mind. Shout out to Inverted Madness on YouTube. Yeah, you put out a video called "The Complete Guide to Your 20s," and it made me think that we should take the opportunity, given that we are both in our 20s, we should convey to the audience watching the perception versus the reality of living in our 20s, what that exactly entails, what that honestly looks like, what that feels like. Because I feel like a lot of the old heads, a lot of the baby boomers, you know who you are. Y'all have a tendency to talk about how easy we have it. And to some extent, we probably do. But I promise you, it is not as easy as it looks. Rock, what are your thoughts on what it's like living in your 20s? Your personal experience.
It's like the end of a roller coaster, is the best way I put it. You have peaked in your early 20s, especially when you're 21, 22. It rounds out about 23. 24 is kind of like this deceleration. You hit 25, and then you can rent a car, which opens up a world of possibilities, but also is like the last hurrah for a life that's about to become very domesticated. You, once you hit 26, it's like, this is the bridge. At 27, 28, 29, fuckers are starting families. Like, that's what your 20s feels like. And sometimes your 20s can be great. You can be clubbing, you can be doing this, you can be doing that. That also requires money. And if you don't come from it, you have a very hard time having a great time in your 20s on, doing crazy shit. Unless you're super hot or, like I said, your parents are loaded, right? Pretty privilege exists that if you have it, use it. Because once that fucker goes, it is long gone, and life sucks again. Living in your 20s is all about trying to do shit and failing, and then doing more shit and failing, and then looking back at one point going, man, where did all this time go? And then sometimes you do shit, like you have like this quarter-life crisis, or maybe you go to college, or you go back to college, or you go to dental hygienist school, or you get back with your ex, or you divorce your first husband. I don't know. There's a lot of possibilities out there. Right. But it's like this, it's kind of like this panic, and then you slowly descend into getting married again, or getting married, having kids, planning first birthday parties, secretly hating your wife, wanting a divorce, maybe having an affair, a little bit on the side of the secretary. I don't know. Possibilities are endless. But that's life in your 20s.
Okay. I think let me how can I break this down in simplest terms? First of all, getting a job in our 20s is fucking ridiculous.
Yes.
Can I start off with that?
You can.
Okay. It's ridiculous. Okay. Right. Think about some of the jobs that are very lucrative. Okay. You need experience, or you would need to go to school for it.
Or you need that you're never going to get because you're never in that social class.
Thank you. Exactly. So being able to get a job and for a job to take a flyer on you, because that's basically what they do when you're in your 20s, because there's what experience could you possibly rely on from 16 to you should start working at around all right, look. I ain't gonna go too far. What? When you start working, that's when the experience starts. So there isn't no, I went to law school for 5 years and I have my bachelor's degree and shit, I don't remember.
Yeah,
well done,
you gotta do dumb shit. That's why.
Right.
Shout out my boy Mark Wilson. Thank you for tuning in, Mark.
Oh, of course, Mark. We love you. We love you over here, as always. And so it's like you're having the phrase of you build your own resume day by day is literally the case when you're in your 20s. Because unless you are in college and you already know exactly what you're going there for, you know exactly what you're going to get your degree in, you know what job you're going to go into, you know the industry and all that good fun stuff. Unless you have that settled plan, and you still have to hope and pray that all falls in line properly, You're basically having to prove yourself day in and day out with the little of experience that you do have, and hope that a job takes a flyer on you that is going to pay you a lot more money than you've had in the past with not as much experience. So jobs always taking a flyer on you, and chances are the jobs are not going to take that flyer because they'd rather have someone with the experience, because that's their sense of reliability or stability in that industry or that department, which is completely understood. But that puts us in a very challenging position to make a lot of shit shape. It just does. Okay, that's with jobs. All right, then you're trying to figure out, okay, I do get the job, but then I need to figure out how I'm gonna manage my money, because I'm sorry, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but schools did not do a good job of telling us how to properly utilize our money. So, with that being said, we're basically left out on our own to figure that shit out. It's a hope and pray that we're doing the right thing with that. Which chances are, given that you're in your 20s, you're probably devoting a lot of money into going to the club, figuring out how you can pay $1,000 on these shoes, or, figure out what you can. I promise you exactly what you said, Brock. The possibilities are endless as far as what you would like to do with your money. Okay. And so with that, it comes with a lot of different pressure and responsibility to say, hey, I know I got this money here, but I know I got rent coming up. Like, it takes a lot of discipline that, depending on how you were raised or what you've learned over the years, you may or may not know how to manage that. And that could be a challenge within itself. So you have that issue as well, as far as managing money, how to operate in that sort of space. Okay. Then let me also say this. The relationships in the 20s, boy, oh boy, is it get real murky. It gets real murky real fast, baby. Okay? Because you have, and by the way, it doesn't matter the gender, it doesn't matter what the case is. Everybody has this innate ability to have this high ass expectation for the partner to do, even though they're probably struggling to meet their end on their own, which makes it completely challenging to do anything dating related. Because the question always becomes, oh, well, what do you do for a living? Well, right now I'm going to school for this and I'm doing this part-time. Oh, well, let me just look for the older guy that has, the rich family and the rich job and the rich cars. And I'll probably take them over the inconsistency or the lack of stability that you have in place. Even though you're working hard, I don't know if I want to take that chance. So relationships, unfortunately, is a challenge within itself on both ends. Okay. Then you have to hope and pray that you do find that partner, that y'all can find a way to generate two separate incomes to where y'all can get out of your parents' household, which that within itself is going to be a fucking journey that can throw a whole lot of curveballs if you're not paying attention. Okay. And all of this doesn't have a guide behind it. And a whole lot of people, might I add, who are waiting to see how bad it's going to get for you. There's not a whole lot of people encouraging you in your 20s to really get it right. Because a lot of people are saying, hey, like, this is the time to trial and error and make mistakes and to fall short and being able to learn from your mistakes and things of that nature. The problem is the mistakes that I'm making here are very critical. If I don't get it right now, by the time I look up in my mid-30s, my mistakes that happened in my 20s are going to cost me, and I have to fix it. So there's that extra additive of pressure to get it right, to get the job done. As much as everybody's like, take your time, relax, things of that nature, there is that pressure to get it done so that way you're not having to be older and be sitting there like, oh shit, now I'm behind the 8 ball here. What the fuck are we gonna do? Whereas when you're in your 30s, it's like, all right, this is now my building block. I am starting to really get into my prime, depending on what profession I'm doing, what I'm, in terms of just a mentality standpoint. My 30s are supposed to be the building block of that. Okay. The 20s is just supposed to be the trial and error for a lot of people, which is why people are given a lot of grace, or supposed to be given a lot of grace in their 20s. But the problem is that people have this expectation that is way too high. And then we have some people that are super lazy to where their expectations are way too low. And there's no gray area in between, which fucking sucks. So, for those who are watching this and are in their 20s, just know that all your effort, hard work is very much so appreciated. Don't be so hard on yourself, but understand that whatever expectation that you have set for others, make sure that you're meeting it yourself. And we're good. It's easier said than done, obviously, me being one of them, but it can be done. I've seen a lot of people do it. You have a lot of millionaires in their 20s. You have a lot of people who are enjoying fantastic opportunities in their 20s. So it's not like it can't be done, but it takes a lot of discipline and a lot of onus to say, hey, this is the expectation I have for myself, and these are the expectations I have for my future. And I have to hold myself up to that. And if a partner's involved, to hold them accountable and have them hold me accountable as well. It's challenging as fuck. It's annoying as fuck. Jobs are annoying. They can be pissy, especially the bosses. They could be pain in the ass. But other than that, do your best. Ask questions later. Ask questions later. So I just felt like it was important for people to understand that it is not as simple as people make it out to be. Okay? Because you only get a little bit. I promise you, you do not get as much money as a lot of, like I mentioned earlier, the baby boomers like to say that we make. We have a lot more opportunities, don't get me wrong. There's definitely a lot of areas to where we could earn our keep. But if we don't have that experience behind us, we're cooked, buddy. We are cooked. And that's in everything. Like everything. Loans? Oh, you think these banks gonna want to take a flyer on you? No, not immediately. Not without a hefty, down payment or something crazy like that. And that's a whole nother story for another day. You get the idea. It's not so much set in stone to have that capability, to have that stability in your 20s. So do your best. Don't be too hard on yourself. Just be mindful of your expectations, and we're fine. Easier said than done, I understand, but it can be done. Okay. So shifting gears. Apparently, we're in that time of year where we got a lot of games coming out, a lot of sports titles dropping. We had the re-debut, I should say, of College Football 25. I've enjoyed it so far. It's been a treat. It's had some highs and lows for sure, which is to be expected for a game that hasn't been out in 10 years. But that's been a treat. Obviously, Madden 25 just dropped recently as well. And that's been, I've personally enjoyed it because I play it by myself anyway. So it's as long as it doesn't get too toxic playing online, it's fine for me. But I know that there's a lot of noise around Madden that is not too pleasant, and rightfully so. You have 2K25 that's coming out next week, actually. And there's a lot of people that's kind of having a mixed bag about that as well. But we're not going to worry about the mixed bag. Today, I want us to share and ask you guys that are watching, what are your favorite sports video games? We can make the argument of all time. So, Brock, I'll ask you, my good friend, what is that game for you, and why is it?
So my favorite game before this was NCAA 14. I love college football, but it had to be that or Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. I think that game, as a single player, is just fantastic. The story is excellent. As a continuation from Modern Warfare, I mean, honestly, just the whole Modern Warfare series. Honestly, there's a Modern Warfare, World at War, Modern Warfare 2. I think all three of those games are phenomenal, especially Modern Warfare 2, the multiplayer mode. Great stories in all of them. Very easy to follow along. Very easy to immerse yourself into those worlds. Very simplistic, but also very deep. Just an excellent string of games that really defy the generation, if I'm being honest.
Okay. I had to like fight between my two picks because it wasn't easy. But I had to go old school in this one. So number one, I think, and I wish they would bring it back. NFL Street had to be one of the most enjoyable experiences of playing a football game in my life. And that's throughout the entire series. I know a lot of people don't really enjoy NFL Street 3, and that's fine. But the entire series was a blast, and it gave you something outside of Madden that allowed you to bring a whole lot of the arcade aspect of football into the game. You being able to enjoy playing in different arenas and different backyards and different things like that. It was fucking awesome. Okay. And I really enjoyed the fact that you were able to play against the best of the best, and it wasn't outrageous. Like, you put the hardest difficulty, and I promise you, it was still a treat to play. The computer wasn't going to be whooping your ass 24/7. It was going to be an enjoyable game through and through. And you was going to have a good time regardless. Even if you played with friends. It was even more entertaining if you played it with friends. Because you just enjoyed it from beginning to end. Having to have game breakers left and right. Having to score at whim. To just do different game modes and different drills. Fucking fantastic. It was awesome. Okay? So that was NFL Street. But you know what's crazy, y'all? I guess this shows my age, I guess. I still enjoy. Like, I promise you, if I had a PS4 still, I would still boot this. This would still be the number one game that I would boot up, for sure. And that is NBA 2K16. I'm sorry. It's between 16 or 17 for me.
Oh,
honestly, I cannot go wrong either way. I probably would lean, honestly, now thinking about it, I'm leaning towards 17. I had of a great time with 17.
Wait, which one had Jeremy? Which one was Jeremy Lin's year? Because that one I remember being goated.
16, I believe.
Oh, that was a fantastic game. Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Flashbacks. So,
yes.
Oh.
You just didn't. It's like you never had a dull moment. You never had a dull moment playing either one of those two. But I feel like 2K17 was a personal joy for me, simply because of the story mode that went with it. You're my player, and Justice Young, who but was casted as Michael B. Jordan, was something I never knew I needed, but ended up enjoying the shit out of. Like, I actually enjoyed the whole orange juice thing, the cutscenes. The cutscenes weren't fucking unbearable like you would find out in recent titles. It was actually a treat to play the game, to experience the endorsements, to have your shoe deal, to play in the park. The shop meter was fantastic. The different animations you can do, the ball handling was spectacular. The dunks you could do. VC wasn't fucking outrageous. So microtransactions wasn't a fucking abysmal thing to deal with. Like, you actually, from no matter what aspect it was, you really enjoyed every single bit of playing the game, which for me is what made it so addicting to play. Because whether I was playing by myself or I was playing with friends in the park, it was never a dull moment. Even if I was the one that was getting cooked because apparently I didn't put enough defensive stats on my guy for whatever dumbass reason, it was still a treat. And it was like, you had fun regardless. Of course, you had the people that were toxic as hell that, you know, had no problem doing lag switching. I think that's when that became a fucking egregious issue. Lag switching was a thing and became very abysmal. But other than that, it was really a treat whether you was playing by yourself or you was playing with friends, and you just had a good time no matter what. And it was definitely something to behold. Like I said, if I had a PS4 right now, I would literally get a PS4 right now just to put 2K17 on the screen for me to play. And I would enjoy it all over again, even with skill points. So that's totally that would be a game I would say would probably be one of, if not my favorite. There's a lot of, there's some older Maddens that could be in that conversation. The Madden 08, the Madden 07, things of that nature. But that's kind of nitpicky as far as why I would put them in that conversation. But other than that, honestly, it doesn't get much better than those two for me personally. So I'm curious to know, coming from y'all that's watching, let us know what y'all favorite games are, so that way we can shout them out for you. But lastly, before we get out of here, I also want to let you know that we are also sponsored by Fanatics. Ladies and gentlemen, as I said before, I'll say it again. It's that time of year, okay? We are about to embark on one of the best NFL seasons there is. We're about to embark on the NBA season that's upon us in October. The list goes on and on. We're about to be heading into the MLB playoffs. It's about to be that time, okay? So go to fanatics.com right now. Go cop yourself a hat. Go cop yourself a jersey, a jacket, for those cold months, that November, that December time of the year. Go ahead and do your absolute best to rep your team throughout this year. It's going to be a treat to watch, but it ain't the same if you don't got your merch. It ain't the same. So again, go to fanatics.com and let them know that we sent you. All right. So before we get out of here, our last topic for today is, as we get closer to the NFL season, we have some teams that aren't really talked about enough, and for some cases, rightfully so. But we're going to talk about them for this episode, man. And so there's so many different teams that could take a step back or could, do just about what we expected of them. But then there are certain teams that, depending on their schedule, depending on what they added in the offseason and in the draft, are teams that apparently we're not talking about enough. And so, Brock, I'm curious, what is that team for you?
Ooh, good question. Good question. You know, that team for me is, I know this could be kind of surprising, but I'm going to say the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Okay.
No one's really talking about them, but financially, they're in a fantastic spot. I mean, Baker Mayfield isn't that great of a quarterback, but he's good enough to win multiple playoff games against the Eagles last year, and of course against the Steelers. Sorry, during the 2020 season. I have to remember. And he took the Chiefs to the limit that season as well. In the divisional game, he needed an incredible play by Chad Henne to derail that effort. So I think they have a good enough quarterback to win the division one more time. Todd Bowles has been the head coach for 2 years. He's won the division both years. He's overcome a lot of adversity. Defensively, he's one of the most brilliant minds in the NFL. He did lose Dave Canales to the Carolina Panthers, but I mean, you look, Mike Evans is back. Vita Vea is still there. You know, they got some pieces. Antoine Winfield Jr. I think that if they get into the dance, if they could win their first game at home, and then you never know at that point. You're in the final 8 in the NFL. So I would say the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is the team that I would pick for that.
Okay. Now, so I think for me, I was kind of battling between these two teams simply because they may not necessarily have the schedule in their favor per se, but I could see them doing a lot of damage this year. One of those teams being the Los Angeles Rams, I actually think they might be the team that could challenge San Francisco for winning the division entirely. I think the fact that you have Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua as your wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2, I'm sorry, you cannot go wrong with that. And then the running backs that they have, Blake Corum, and then you have Kyron Williams back there, who was spectacular last year. You get to have that all over again. There's a lot of continuity that comes back with that Rams offense. Obviously, with Matt Stafford doing his thing as always. The offensive line did much better than people give him credit for last year, all things considered. We were anticipating that Stafford was going to get his head rammed into the ground over and over and over again. That did not happen a whole lot. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, I think they led the leagues in not allowing a lot of sacks last year. So you can tell that the offensive line is coming together very, very smoothly. I think on defense, obviously you lose Aaron Donald. I think that's why a lot of people are not talking about him, and people think that they're going to have that step back, and rightfully so. But I think the young guys that they have in place, Byron Young, even with the veterans of having Tre'Davious White, even though,
can you please play more than 5 games in the season? That'd be great. Thanks.
Just want to put that out there. But obviously, I think the defense from top to bottom, who, by the way, played very well towards the end of last year, I think is going to take a step forward again this year. It's going to pay dividends when it's all said and done. And so I have the Rams being that sleeper team that might end up winning the division, might end up winning 11 games. It could be possible. The schedule could, there's a lot of games on their schedule that could definitely, could be either way. And they could definitely win those games. So I could definitely see that for the Rams. Another team, and this is going to sound crazy to say because they're in my division, but the Washington Commanders, man, I could really see them taking a leap forward, kind of similar to what Houston did last season.
Okay.
Where Jaden Daniels and Terry McLaurin are just just hitting on all cylinders to such a degree to where it's allowing them to win some games that they probably shouldn't be able to. I also think that because no one's talking about Austin Eckler, and rightfully so, because the last time we saw Austin Eckler, he couldn't, for the life of him. Yeah, exactly. Couldn't run for shit. So, there's a lot of people that's not talking about Austin Eckler, but he's still, in my eyes, he's still a touchdown machine when he's on the field. He just needs to be on the fucking field. The offensive line is a question mark. I totally get it, 1,000%. The defense, all we ask for the defense is to not be as shitty as they were last year. I don't think there's much more of a bar to go higher than that. But just don't suck. I guess that's what you can ask the defense to do. Again, this was a defense that ranked dead last in every statistical category, which was fucking insane. I don't know how you can do that for a full calendar season, but they were able to do that. So the biggest thing for them is to not suck. And you brought in Bobby Wagner in the linebacking core. You brought in Dan Quinn to be your head coach, who's going to be covering that defensive side of the ball. So it'll be interesting to see the improvements that they've made on that side. But I could see them doing something similar to what Houston did last year, where they just their offense is pivotal enough to win some games that, if you look at their schedule on paper, it looks like they shouldn't win, but they could definitely pull off some upsets for sure. So I could definitely see the Commanders getting the job done. I could definitely see the Rams messing around and being a top 3 seed in the NFC. That's definitely possible. I'll throw a curveball for you, Brock.
Okay.
So we talked about teams that are going to be sleepers, but what's a team for you that you think is very overrated and could take a step back this year?
Ooh, that's a good question. A team that's very overrated, I could take a step back this year. I want to say the San Francisco 49ers. And we already said a lot of those reasons above. Ayuk getting paid over Williams, them not having a really good offensive line. I think that they pay way too much money to the offensive side of the ball and not enough money to the defensive side of the ball. I think that their defensive line is a bit weaker. I think they're a bit better at depth, but the DB room is a bit concerning. And, I think that they're due for a Super Bowl hangover. They experienced it once. I think they'll experience it again. So I'm going to say the San Francisco 49ers.
Okay. 49ers, not a bad pick. I swear to God, let me just say this now before I have all these fans coming at me.
This is not a slight. This is the fact of life. Take it for what it is, because that's exactly what it's about to be. Okay? All right.
That team for me is the fucking Dallas Cowboys. I'm gonna keep it such a being with you. I am not even gonna lie. This is about as top heavy of a roster I think I've ever seen. Like, if any one of these guys go down, if Micah goes down, if CeeDee Lamb goes down, if that goes down, who the fuck is going to win games for them? Who? You already lost Deron Bland for a good portion of the season. If I'm not mistaken, it's 6 to 8 weeks. So he's going to be gone for a little while. So your secondary is already an issue. Okay. Trayvon Diggs is recovering and coming back from a torn ACL from last year. So I think their defense might take a step back. I'm not really fond of their offensive line. They signed Dalvin Cook yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know how much of a needle mover that will be.
Not much.
Not much. The wide receivers outside of CeeDee Lamb, I mean, I like Brandon Cooks more than most, but he's getting up there in age. He may not have the same production. Jake Ferguson might get a little bit more love, but he doesn't scream integral part of the Cowboys offense to me personally. I know I saw bits and flashes last year, but that was primarily because Dak was going through his progression, and CeeDee Lamb was probably triple covered, and that's how he got his touches. So Jake Ferguson, I don't see that kind of caliber tight end. Off the line is a question mark. I saw a team that won 12 games last year and then got home field advantage in the playoffs and stunk up the joint due to Green Bay, the Green Bay Packers, or as I'm going to call them this year, the Green Bay Babies, because there were nothing but fucking kids that ran around that entire AT&T Stadium and whooped their asses and then some.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's all that I needed to see. Now, granted, if you want to say, hey, their schedule still, gives them an opportunity to get into the playoffs, sure, that's fine. I'm not going to argue that. But in terms of them being one of the top teams in the NFL to be in the conversation of getting to a Super Bowl or being in championship contention, I don't see it this year. I just don't. It feels like this Cowboys roster is one mistake from them going 8-9 or to 7-10. Like it's literally that. So I could see the Cowboys just really wetting the bed. And you know what? Just for y'all to get off my back, if there's another team that I also think could take a step back, to be honest with you, I could see, honestly, and this is going to sound crazy too, because I actually like their roster. I just don't trust it. Is the Baltimore Ravens. Ooh. I don't trust their offensive line. I'm very finicky about how their offensive line is going to perform this year. We'll find out when they go to Kansas City in week 1 next week. But the offensive line, 3 new starters, if I'm not mistaken. That's going to be interesting to see how that turns out. The defense is going to be fine. I'm not too worried about that. Obviously, the running game is going to be great because they have Derek fucking Henry.
Right.
Not worried about that. Obviously, they still have Mark Andrews and Zay Flowers as far as pass catchers are concerned. But outside of those 2 guys, who's going to be that threat for them? And that's going to be another question mark for me that I could see being a very pivotal part, especially with them being in the toughest division in football, being in the AFC North, where you cannot afford to lose certain games to certain teams at certain parts of the season. And if Lamar's not protected, I don't care how much running around he's doing, it's not going to pay dividends in the long run. That's my biggest concern. So I could see them taking a step back. Now, does a step back immediately mean that they don't make the playoffs? No. But they're going to be more so of a wild card that would have to really do some damage and catch some stride at the right time to be very dangerous. So I'm just very, very skeptical on that offensive line and the rest of the pass catchers for Baltimore, me personally. Now, if I'm proven wrong, hey, totally wrong, totally fine with that. That's A-okay with me. But just going off of what I saw in the offseason and what I saw in the draft, I'm just a little skeptical about that. And I think that's fair. What do you think, Brock?
Yeah, no, I'm kind of in the same boat as you. I really don't have much to disagree with what you said. I kind of agree with all of them. Cowboys have to be due because it feels like Mike McCarthy's in a lame duck year. You know, like no matter what he does, he's gonna get fired anyway. So who knows what's gonna happen with them? Plus Ezekiel Elliott right now is your number one running back. Like, oh please, that's very troubling. Yeah, no, I don't really have much to add. I think you kind of covered everything, man.
Okay. So this is the conclusion of episode 1 of the Off the Dome show. Shout out to Brock Vieira, my co-host, for being a part, man. This is always a treat. This is always a pleasure. Okay. Looking forward to the next one next week. Very excited. Football season's upon us. We got a fantasy league that we got to worry about too. So trust and believe me, it's going to be more chaotic the week that we do play each other because it just will be. Yeah. But thank y'all so much for tuning in. Again, like, share, and subscribe on all Team MBS media on all platforms. We got any and everything, you name it, we got you. Again, thank y'all so much for tuning in. And lastly, join us.